Welcome to the Pitchline Chronicles. I am Tats. I am here with Rob, and we will be breaking down our feelings on the Rizzo return and some other rumors going around in the league and where some of the top players are expected to go. We will give our opinions on that right here on Pitchline Chronicles. Welcome back. And before we signed off on Tuesday's show, we were saying how we had kind of asked the question of will the Yankees wait for the market to develop itself? Will the Yankees be aggressive and set the market? And I think with the signing of Rizzo, I kind of think they're more in terms of starting to set the market. This is one of the bigger agents to come off the market first. So I think the addition to Rizzo returning is also as much as he's needed defensively. I think without the shift being in play this next season, I think his batting averages are going to go up. I think he's putting the Yankees in a really good position with the kids coming up that they want to bring up. Having a solid first baseman that is an elite glove is just going to help them improve their game. So he's going to improve everybody around them. And also the relationship with Judge also needs to be mentioned. So your initial reaction to Rizzo coming back, Rob, what was your thoughts?
I was happy. Yeah, I wanted him back. He's the best option on the market at first base outside of trades, which I don't even know who'd be available. You need him. He's been great since we got him. He's been one of our best players right outside Aaron Judge. He was our second best player last year. He was one of the only guys that showed up in the postseason this year. He's the only world champion on our roster. So it was a move that made sense. Did they overpay for him a little bit? Maybe, but you needed to bring him back, especially with what you mentioned just a few seconds ago with the kids coming up. If that's Hal's plan, which that could potentially change with the way he's been speaking. But if they roll forward with Peraza Volpe as the middle infield as soon as maybe April or May of this year, you need that first baseman that's going to be relied upon. We saw how it helped Gleyber Torres a couple of years ago, how it helped Rougned Odor throwing the ball from third base to Rizzo. So having that sure glove is a necessity, and it's only going to make things a lot easier for Volpe, in my opinion. Because I think Peraza will be just fine. He's already worked with Rizzo, but it's Volpe that is going to need that sure thing because he's more than likely going to be your second baseman. So I love the move. I love Rizzo. I'm glad he's back, and now we just need to get Judge, and we can keep rolling.
Yep. Good morning, Brad. Good morning, Chris. All right, Donald, what do you think of the years on the deal? Do you think 2 years was with the third option was the right way to go?
Of course, I think it's a tremendous deal. I don't even think it's an overpay. 17 million for Anthony Rizzo, who gave you 32 home runs and an 817 OPS. He was second on the team behind Aaron Judge in all the power metrics. And defensively, he was the key to the infield. He saved a million errors from IKF, and he was the leader. He was the team leader beside Aaron Judge. And also, it flies in the face of this idea that no one wants to play for the Yankees anymore. Anthony Rizzo said, "I love being a Yankee." Okay, so that pretty much shuts down that stupidity from the media narrative right there. Anthony Rizzo loves being a Yankee, and he represents the pinstripes with the way that I expect. He plays with leadership, and he plays every game extremely hard. He has a great approach at the plate. 2 strikes, you see him choking up on the bat. That's not done enough in the modern era. He actually has a plan every single time he goes up to the plate. Again, there's not enough of that in the modern era either. So he is a quintessential Yankee, he's a quintessential pro, and he was the second best hitter on the team. And if we didn't bring him back, we wouldn't have had a first baseman because we don't have a first baseman really on the 40-man apart from DJ LeMahieu, and he's not even a first baseman. It was a must because for two reasons. One, we didn't actually have a first baseman. Two, if we didn't bring him back and say he went to the Astros, then the Yankees could be in a terrible situation. So that was a big step up from Hal Steinbrenner. Give him credit. He got that deal done quick. And the third reason is it gives Aaron Judge another reason to come back. That his best friend is back. Yep. Someone who he relies upon. And that helps us in a ton of ways. So not only, and I agree with you, Tats, with the shift being removed, then you're going to see a ton more hits from Rizzo. You could see his batting average jump from 230 up to 260 at minimum, I believe, next year, just with that alone. So I think it's a steal. What, $17 million per year for someone like Anthony Rizzo? It's the only thing is his back. If his back can hold up, then we've got a steal. Great
that's
deal.
what it is. Before his back started really getting to him, we have to remember that in the beginning of the season, we were tearing it apart wherever we played. He was a catalyst for that. It was him and Judge were just mashing all over the place. He had such a hot start and just kept the ball going, and everybody else was playing well behind him. So that brings the value of not only his play on the field, but his impact in the dugout and in the locker room, especially with other veterans along with the youth. So this is he's the perfect player for any ball club. And
shout out to Steve Schumann. Rizzo was a must sign. Absolutely need him to help the kids. Peraza and Volpe, hopefully. Thought the contract was a good one for the Yanks. Very good one. Completely agree with you, Steve. Thanks so much for checking in. We go, Brad, the calling offer was 19 mil. The Yankees going for 17 million. Rizzo could have easily got 20 million plus elsewhere. Exactly. I think the Astros would have given him a much bigger contract. So I think we actually got a steal in that regard. Respectfully, I do hope Judge comes back. I don't think Rizzo or any free agent signing will influence him. Just my respectful opinion. No, I'm not saying Rizzo would influence him. I'm just saying it helps. It kind of hurt having your best friend on the team, and it shows that the Yankees are very much trying to put a team around him.
Yeah, I think
if they let Rizzo go, what kind of argument would you have to Aaron Judge that this team is looking to push forward and looking to compete around him? So I think it's a statement. I'm not saying it's an influence. It's a statement, 100% statement.
I think it's just another check on the list of giving the fans reassurance that the Yankees are going into the right direction this offseason after the debacle of last year. And so that's why I actually really like that they didn't waste any time. It almost felt like when they saw the image of Rizzo in the Astros uniform, Cashman's like, "Oh, freak that! That is not happening," and they just went out and they got the deal done.
Well, if you think about it, if you want to listen to Joel Sherman, it was us that influenced Hal Steinbrenner to start spending a little bit, because all of his comments lately have been, "We're not going to get outbid for Aaron Judge." It was,
very aggressive.
We're not going to allow the Judge signing to prevent us from getting any other free agents that'll help us win a World Series. He didn't say get better. He said win a World Series. The words he's using is different. And Joel Sherman said him getting booed at the Derek Jeter ceremony is really kind of what lit this fire in him. So the big bad Yankee fans who no one wants to play for are now influencing their owner to, spend a little bit more. He's already spending a lot, but maybe just spend it more in the right places. So now maybe he's saying, you know what, Cashman, I'm giving you the GM job again, but I'm going to have a little more input because I'm sick of people booing me whenever I show up the 3 times a year that I show my face. So maybe bullying works in this sense, because we've been bullying Hal Steinbrenner for a while, and now he's kind of like, I'm sick of it. So I will, tip my cap to Hal, because what he's saying, whether you want to believe it or not, it could be lip service, it could not be. But for right now, his words from the last couple of days compared to what they were in that interview with Meredith are completely different. He sounds like a completely different person. That yes interview was typical Hal. The interviews he was having in the last couple of days with Brendan Cootie and all these other people are a different person. So now he's starting to sound like who? His father a little bit. So maybe y'all got your wish. I'm just saying, let's see where it takes us. But for now,
Rob, you're right, man. Just to jump on that point, the way he's speaking is completely different. Last year he was talking about bondsmen. This year he's talking about I need to be better. I need to be more forceful when negotiations. He actually said that. There was a little bit of accountability from the front office and from the head of the organization. How nice is that? That's all I'm asking for. Is someone just to go, right, I think I can do things better here. And he's more forceful. He said he's more forceful in negotiations now. So he contacted Aaron Judge. He's like, we will not be outbid for you. We will get that last offer. He basically said to Aaron Judge, you are coming back to us with the last offer. And I actually 100% believe that Aaron Judge is coming back because of the way that Hal Steinbrenner has taken the bull by the horns. His GM doesn't have a contract. So I think that Hal Steinbrenner is actually stepping up and doing more and in his role. And that's great. I don't want an absentee owner. And I do think, Rob, I think the booing has hurt him because I think it's changed my opinion now. I don't think it's a case that he doesn't care. I think he does care. I just think he trusts the wrong people. And so
thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the case. I think he does care. Just the way he's talking, I like that. And he didn't say that it shuts down the offseason after Aaron Judge. He says, if we bring in Aaron Judge, I want to see if there's somebody else that can help this team win. Again, this is completely different than I have to look after my bondsmen. So credit to Hal Steinbrenner, tip of the cap. I don't like ranting and raving on front offices and the head offices and this, that, and the other. All I ask for is responsibility and accountability. That's all I ask for. And I got that from my owner, so I'm a little bit more relaxed. It's a great start with Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, we haven't heard Hal do such a 180 before. I don't think ever since he's been involved with the ownership group. We've never heard him this aggressive in his wording. So it might just be that wake-up call that we have been all waiting for. It's all right. You know what? We kind of, his father's ghost must have come to him in a dream because we would have never imagined him using word, being as aggressive. That's really what it is. And yeah, Chris brings up this thing in the chat with the league investigating us. And it is what it is. You know what? The two owners in New York made a pact. Let's look. We're not gonna invade your house. You don't invade ours. Let's just do business. So I think with the two free agent that's on there between Judge and DeGrom, as much as both players can help both clubs, it's you stay in your again the whole thing with the lanes. I think they're going to stay in their own lane. Because I know a lot of people are making a big deal about the report that the Yankees were in on Nimmo, which wouldn't be bad as long as they get rid of Hicks. But it's one of those. MLB needs to mind their business and let the owners conduct the business how they see fit. If they don't want to touch each other's players that are going into free agency, that's their. They don't have. It's not like they're obligated to talk to every free agent.
Well, it was just more that they weren't going to get into a bidding war for Judge with the Yankees. So basically, if the Yankees were in the running, the Mets weren't going to say we're gonna one up you there for the same player. That it was just a mutual respect thing. Mm-hmm. That's what the report came out in March of last year. Yeah, they were talking about this. This isn't new, exactly. So unless the Yankees were out of if they said we can't sign him, if this was like last year Yankees and they said we don't have enough in the budget to sign him, then the Mets would swoop in because it's not like, well, if you're not going to do it, then I guess we can't. It's not, there's no rule saying the Mets can't sign him. So it was just a kind of a mutual understanding. And the Astros are involved in this somehow as well because Verlander mentioned that he wants a Scherzer-like contract. So I don't think anything's going to come out of this investigation. The league, once again, we have an opportunity for a really historic offseason, and here comes Rob Manfred, got to stick his giant nose in everything, and just I can't stand it. Just let players sign. If there was any sort of collusion going here, would have been you don't sign DeGrom, we don't sign Judge. And they had like some secret meeting in like a little Italian restaurant, like it was the Sopranos or something. I don't know. This is not some weird mob boss meeting we have going on here. It's just two owners saying, if you're out of the race on your guy, until you are, we're not going to step in. And you do the same for us. You know, just let the players sign where they want to sign. Let the owners do their business, like you said. I'm so sick of Manfred. I'm so sick of MLB trying to ruin everything.
You know, as bad as the MLB offseason is already, whenever Manfred gets involved, the offseason gets even worse.
What is the end goal here? I mean, what are they trying to prove? There's no end goal, because we know that he's got a huge market. The only reason why they would investigate is whether it affects Aaron Judge's value in the free agent market. His value in the free agent market is sky high because he hit 62 home runs and had one of the greatest years of all time. The Dodgers like him, and the Giants are going to go hand over fist to compete with the Yankees for Aaron Judge. His market value is absolutely fine. Just because the Mets have gone, right, no, I'm not going to get involved in a bidding war, doesn't mean they should be investigated. But from what I understand, Manfred now has now demanded that Cohen gives out texts and emails to the Yankees in regards to this. I just think that what is the end goal here? I mean, you're not, just because he's a free agent doesn't mean you have to sign him.
Exactly. And just because every owner, that's like saying that it's mandatory that all 30 owners have to sit down with Judge before he signs anywhere. That's stupid. That is terrible business. It'll never happen. That's not the way that it works. As soon as you hear a deal you like, you take it.
What they should do is investigate the teams that aren't spending any money, like the Pirates or the Athletics, that are getting away with this nonsense that every single year they have certain players that make more than an entire team. Why don't you investigate that and force these teams to do something different? Like, nothing's going on here. Unless there was like money exchanged between the owners, then something has to be done, because that's obviously breaking a rule. But if they just said, like, listen, don't go after our guy, we won't go after yours unless you're out of it, and they had a handshake agreement, okay, it's not ideal, I guess, but I don't know if there's any sort of rule that if you want to find them, but enough of this investigation crap. And what the comment here from Brad says, Clark and Manfred is trying to ruin everything. Yeah, they're the worst. These two are the worst. Tony Clark, Rob Manfred, they're like 1A and 1B in terms of being the devil. I can't stand the two of them.
No, they're constantly taking a dump on the league.
Yeah.
As you said, like I said before, the offseason is slow enough. We don't need Manfred making situations even more of an aggravation. Just let the offseason just take its course and just roll through. We don't need to have all this other bullshit involved. It's just pointless, because there was not like you said, Rob, unless there was something being done under the table to manipulate the market, there's no wrongdoing.
No.
They've done nothing wrong.
Again, I just go back to what is the end goal here. So what if they do find text messages from Steve Cohen going, we're not in on Aaron Judge, right? The only, how does that affect his market value? Just because he's not going to the Mets? As I say, the whole West Coast like him.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't even think Aaron Judge would go to the Mets. The whole West Coast like him. He's a West Coast guy. It's going to be the Yankees or the West Coast. So what are you investigating? It's just such a waste of time. But, these guys, the terrible Twins have been behind the shortened season, the strike, the delayed start to the year. We had the playoffs late in October, and then it affected the Yankees because all the games were rained out. Because the playoffs didn't start until a couple of weeks later when the weather really started to turn. So that was on MLB. A bunch of things. And then, of course, we obviously had the cheating scandal, which they barely investigated. But this is an investigation. This complete non-issue where Aaron Judge remains unsigned is an investigation. Yeah, what are we investigating? What a waste of freaking time.
And with Brad's comment here, You know, teams are spending and bankrupting the luxury tax money into their pockets should be investigated. Yeah, Brad, and we dove into this a lot last offseason when we were talking about what we would do to restructure and how we would improve the league. One of the things that I had always said, I would have it where your luxury tax is only slotted for salary. You cannot put it in your pocket. That has to go directly to player contracts. If you're not putting the money into the contract, you lose picks, you lose international money, whatever it takes. Force the owners to start reinvesting the luxury tax into the roster. Otherwise, you get nothing.
And the league would be better if they did that. Imagine like just some random offseason, a player like, because we were off camera, or not off camera, backstage, we were talking about the Orioles might be in on Rodon. No one would have thought that. But imagine if it was a team like Pittsburgh goes out and makes a giant offer, even if they don't get him for a guy like Aaron Judge or Verlander. It's like, okay, it's interesting. It gives us something to talk about. Or if they even sign a big free agent, no one sees it coming. It's good for the sport. They're like, what do you think about this move? So it gets people talking. Like, did you see? Let's just put a player out there. Trey Turner signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's not going to happen, but just imagine if it did, because they have all this money from the luxury tax. The richer teams are giving to the poorer teams, or the teams that don't spend, and they don't use it. It's stupid. So if you're going to have these teams get this money and not use it, investigate them, penalize them. Stop penalizing or investigating teams that don't need to be investigated. If they're not doing anything wrong, leave them alone. You have a lot more issues in your league, Manfred and Clark.
Yeah.
Enough with this crap and trying to investigate the teams that actually are spending and bringing in people and bringing in eyes to watch your sport.
Ridiculous.
Yep. Elliot, I can understand Clark and Rob don't want any overtures of collusion. That I get. I just don't get why the Mets would agree to that with the Yankees, because it's bad business to go into a bidding war in your own city, because nobody will win. Nobody will win. It'll just be another, it'd be a disaster, be a financial disaster for both teams, because all they're going to do is they're going to run up each other's payrolls to ridiculous lengths, trying to show who's got more muscle. So it doesn't serve the owners any good going into bidding wars in your own market. It doesn't make any sense. But the issue with going back to Rondon, because he's been one of the names that are being tossed around for our pitching staff, and with the Orioles getting involved, real quick.
Exactly, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, etc. Banking the luxury tax money and gaslighting their fans. Yeah, I mean that is as Rob says, that's worth investigating.
It's wrong.
That in itself is investigated.
That's criminal. That should be investigated. Not this bullshit.
I would investigate the Yankees if they weren't trying to renegotiate Aaron Judge's contract. They would get negotiated. That should be worth investigating if they didn't sign Aaron Judge, because the guy gave us 52 home runs.
It's just owners are all about they invested in these teams to make money. We get that. It's a business fit out. You don't have, we had an owner in George that was a true fan. We talked about that the other day. The Mets have that now with Cohen. Now, so Cohen is going to be very lax with his money. He's going to make deals that make sense for the team. He may overpay for one or two players to make a statement or to ensure that he gets the players that he wants, but he's not going to spend foolishly. He's not going to go and offer somebody a $500 million contract just to flex his muscle. So,
here's a contradiction for you. They actually have a Steve Cohen tax. The upper end of the luxury tax threshold is a Steve Cohen tax. Yet they're unhappy that Steve Cohen isn't trying to go way above that by bringing in the best player in baseball. So isn't that a hilarious contradiction? You know what I mean? So they're actually being prudent with their money, and MLB are like, what are you doing, damn it? I mean, that doesn't make any freaking sense to me. That they're so afraid of Steve Cohen that they've got a Steve Cohen tax, yet they're concerned that Steve Cohen isn't going all in on someone who's a Yankee. It's a bizarre contradiction, but that's MLB for you. That's a hilarious contradiction.
Yeah, and leave it up to Clark and Manfred to derail our shows with such bullshit. It's unnecessary. We have more fun things that we'd rather be talking about. So here we are again. It's every offseason, every trade that is the same nonsense with Manfred and Clark getting involved in things that they shouldn't be getting involved in. Let the owners run their businesses how they want. As long as there's nothing under the table that can be a collusion, then there's no story. There's no investigation. That doesn't make any sense.
That's exactly my point, Chris the Flash. What crazy is they handle the Astros situation horribly, investigate the situation. So yeah, they barely handle the Astros thing, but the Yankees are being brought up for collusion. Collusion for me is the stuff that you see in the NBA where like players are like, right, well, if you just take a little bit less money, then we'll sign you right on the, as soon as free agency opens. That's collusion. Collusion between owners not to go after a certain player hardly accounts as collusion for me.
No, and the narrative doesn't fit well with the NBA either. When you see all the, you hear all the reports of that everybody wants to play with all their friends.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's collusion. Yeah, I don't think
you don't see that in baseball.
I don't think a gentleman's agreement that, the Mets have certain plans for their free agency. Aaron Judge isn't one of them. Somehow that constitutes as collusion. Give me a freaking break.
Yeah, it's annoying. That's all it is. It's annoying. But to get back with some of the free agents, Rondon, like I was starting to say, is one of the keys.
Rodon, Tats, it's Rodon. Stop calling him Rondon. He's been doing it for months. His name is Carlos Rodon.
Rodon. So, it's a replacement for. I know I've been driving around crazy. As a replacement for Tyone, you're also hearing his name with the Orioles, who are also in need of some starting pitching. So, do you think that the AL East is going to be more of a landing spot for him, or will he go? Or who else are you hearing where he might go?
The whole league wants him, really, except for the teams that don't spend. I mean, Houston might be after him if they lose Verlander. It just. But he can go anywhere. Seattle could be in on him, like they need any more pitching. But I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto took a run at him. Basically, all the teams that were after him at the deadline, the Giants could want him back. Chicago could want him back. Maybe even the Cubs could take a run at him. I would take him in a heartbeat because he'd be a legitimate number 2 right behind Cole, and then our playoff rotation would be incredible. Our rotation's already pretty good, and it would be even better with him. I just don't know if they're going to spend for him because he can get potentially $30 million plus. Because that's how good he's been the last couple of years. He's the second best pitcher out, the third best. I keep forgetting DeGrom's available, but there's a good heap of free agent pitchers out there, and he's one of the really, really good ones. So it's going to be a bidding war for him.
So Rodon, yeah, he would be the pitcher that has the bidding war on it. And I think that was the player that they should have pivoted for after the Castillo deal closed out. It was, Nick came on with us that one show and told us that, every whisper in California, everybody and their mother knew that he was opting out and going back into free agency because he wasn't happy where he was. So that was the move because they knew they were going to lose him. You could have gotten a better trade for him because they'd rather get something than nothing. So the Yankees really missed the mark on that. So here's their chance to kind of set the record straight and get him in that rotation. I think that's the next move. Obviously, Judge is the priority. But aside from that big move, as far as the pitching staff, Rodon is the way to go. I think that is the move for the rotation.
I don't know, man. For me, starting pitching isn't the absolute priority. Starting pitching was not our problem in the playoffs. I would prioritize fixing this shortstop, third base situation and left field. That is my priority, right? I'd also like to have a set closer, whether it comes from within or outside the organization. That is something that's a priority for me too, because it shortens the game. And the less Aaron Boone needs to manage a bullpen, the better. So that's something that I would prioritize. Starting pitching, I mean, let's look at it. I know people don't like him, but Domingo Germán gave you a 3 ERA. As a 5 starter, why would you argue with that? Nestor Cortez was our ace, and he had an ERA of about 2. You never argue with that. Garrett Cole was the ace in the playoffs. He was phenomenal. So that's 3 pitchers right there. You got Clark Schmidt, who, if the Yankees continue to mess around with, his career is going to flatline. So, again, he has stuff that could be a very good back-end starter. So that's another pitcher right there. Then you got Luis Severino, who you've just picked up. And Severino balled out after his injury. He probably would have pitched a no-hitter if Aaron Boone didn't take him out. So he was good, and I thought he was pretty good in the playoffs too. So you got that too. You got him. So, and then you've also got Frankie Montas, who, it's still up in the air. When he's healthy, he's got good stuff. If the Yankees maybe, instead of prioritizing doing everything ass backwards with prioritizing his secondary pitches instead of his fastball, I would have Frankie Montas dominate with his fastball and then use his splitter. And I think you would see a better Frankie Montas. So, I've already mentioned 6 pitchers right there. So I would investigate the trade market for starting pitching if you wanted to go that route. But for me, it's looking at third base, shortstop, and left field, and closer. I think that were the areas of weakness which stopped us from winning a championship. It was in starting pitching.
Now, if you guys can make one move, and it's either you trade IKF or you trade Donaldson, who are you kicking off first?
Well, Donaldson deserves to be thrown down a well, but it's just not. It's just not realistic that they get.
That's cruel, but I agree.
That's cruel.
It's not realistic that he deserves. It's not realistic that he's going to get moved. Ideally, it'd be him, but I think IKF kind of has to go, and it's not his fault because he just did everything that he's expected to do. He was a below average shortstop. He played below average at the position, and he's a contact first singles hitter, and that's exactly what he did. So I would look to I'd probably non-tender him unless you can trade him, because that saves you about $6 million. Donaldson's not going anywhere until they just cut him outright. No one's trading for the guy without you eating money and giving a prospect up. So ideally it's Donaldson, but realistically it's IKF.
Yeah, see, I'm more in. I was leaning more into what Brad's saying here. IKF. If you get rid of Donaldson and then put IKF at third, I think that frees up a lot of the pressure on your infield.
Yeah, he's a good piece off the bench, but I just don't think that.
Well, your bench player, right?
He might be the guy that really was going to the media about the New York fans, because they were brutal and they were attacking his father and all that stuff. So maybe a change of scenery just needs to be for him, and it's going to be the best thing for him. They can fluff him up all they want and tell us lies about his defensive short. Just wasn't the case. He probably needs to be elsewhere. You could try packaging him in a trade with someone like Glaber, or just non-tender him outright. But I think he's probably going to be gone. If they're going with Peraza at short and Cabrera's behind him and they're getting Volpe very soon, where's IKF going to play? You're not going to put him at third because you have LeMahieu there, especially if Volpe plays second, and you still have Donaldson on the roster. There's nowhere to put him, and he's not going to come off the bench because they would have done that already. So I think he's on the bubble. At this point, he's probably out the door.
Yeah, we heard Hal talk a lot about the prospects and how they're going to be looking at them closely in spring training when that rolls around. I'm curious. You normally don't hear them boost their prospects and really talk about their spring training performances. Usually, we'll see how the season goes. We'll see where they fit, in the organization. That type of narrative. I think that they're really going to make a push to try to make room for these kids to come up and just kind of let the kids play type of attitude. Is that the way that the Yankees should be going? Or do they have to just try while they have the core with Rizzo, Judge, Cole, do they go all in now and just give it one more year? Or do they just start really infusing the youth?
I think you can do both. The thing is, they could have traded them last year when a generational player was available in Juan Soto. That player is not available this offseason. But you can still keep one, trade the other, and sign Carlos Correa or Trey Turner. And that's your shortstop. And Volpe can still play second. And Peraza can be in a trade for a pitcher. It was brought up in the chat for Pablo Lopez. There's possibilities there. And that you could save a lot of money by doing that because Lopez is actually projected to make less than Torres in arbitration this year, which is interesting to me. But there's options there. I don't know if they want to trade Peraza because they would have done it by now. But it's gonna be interesting to see what Hal does. But there are a couple options in my opinion. One, you sign the big pitcher like Rodon, Verlander. Or two, you sign Correa and then you trade for a pitcher using Peraza. Because if you get Correa, there's nowhere for all these guys to play. And you're not moving Correa just yet. If you do what Michael Kay said and sign him and move him to third, then you're just being foolish. He's too good of a shortstop right now to move him off the position.
No, if you're going to do that, just get Turner.
Yeah, but Turner's only played short, second, and some of the outfield.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, just keep. That's the other problem. They take a lot of people out of their position, and they think that just because they're a professional athlete, they can play anywhere. And that's a very not every player can do it like Rizz, like LeMahieu has done. Those are very rare players that you can just plug in and play anywhere. So they got to be very careful of how they align this roster. They got so much clutter in some areas, and they're in a drought in others. We really need to improve our free agent depth, our first base depth, rather. Donald?
Oh, I thought you'd forgotten about me, Taz. You asked me a single question about 15 minutes. Okay, so going back, way back when I talk about IKF and Josh Donaldson, it's a tough call. I would probably non-tender IKF purely because I don't want to give Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman any more excuse to find ways of getting IKF involved, even though he is a great third baseman. I don't like my hot corner bat being below average offensively, and he is way below average in offensive metrics. I know that he gets like a 260 batting average through singles and stuff, but it's a very, very soft 260. I don't want that for my third baseman. Third and first are your power positions at the hot corner. So, I mean, if I had the choice, I can't believe I'm saying this because I can't stand the guy, but I prefer Josh Donaldson because as long as IKF is involved in this Yankee roster, they will try and find excuses to play on as much as possible. And that ship has sailed. So if I have to put up with Donaldson platooning with DJ LeMahieu, but it prioritizes shortstop and frees up shortstop for Peraza and Volpe to play second, then I'm happy with that. Or even a situation where, because I'm not 100% sure that Volpe is completely ready yet, because he only just started to pick it up at AAA about a month in. So maybe he needs a little bit more seasoning in AAA. In which case, I would go and sign. I would go and sign one of the shortstops in free agency. We all know who I want. We want that dude, and that ended up at the Twins, who really should have been us. I'd put him at shortstop, and then I would, and then I would try Peraza at second base until maybe Volpe's ready. But that's a possibility as well. But one thing I would certainly do is non-tender IKF and it'll start from there.
Yeah, it's and I think Spencer's on point too. Is what are they waiting for? Just bring them in now. And I think where the Yankees are hesitant to do that is what's the narrative going to be? In the worst case scenario, they bring in these kids. They avoid spending the big free agent contracts after they sign Judge, and they don't make the playoffs for a year. How's the fan base going to respond to that? Are they going to call these prospects all busts because they couldn't win it all? Like they couldn't get as close like they did in 17 after this group K got called up. What's the narrative going to be? I think that's the other thing that behind closed doors what they're worried about.
You can't really worry about that stuff, though. You've invested so much, and you've prevented your team from doing so much because of these guys. I mean, you look at the players you could have had. If it wasn't Soto, it could have been Castillo. If it wasn't Castillo, you maybe could have had someone last year like a Matt Olson, or there's plenty of other players that were available in trade. You could have traded for Sean Murphy from Oakland or gotten Minaya. I don't think it would have took one of those guys, but the options were out there, and you didn't do it. So what Spencer's saying is basically, what are you waiting for? Volpe's not ready yet, but he could have a really, really good spring that could propel him to – if they're going to manipulate his service time anyway. So it's not going to be until the end of the first month. This way they'll see, is Donaldson that bad once again? Then they can just cut him, be like, pay him not to play for you, or he just rides the bench. And then you get Volpe up. Guess what? You got an extra year of control, and you get him from May through September. He can't be worse than what you were getting from the left side of your infield last year. Peraza already showed you he can play the position at MLB level because he was just fine. And he also showed you that he can hit because he was hitting left and right from the second he got regular playing time. He was actually really good. It was once they started dicking him around in the playoffs again that he wasn't hitting. So, no, what a freaking case of mind-blowing stuff right there. You give him playing time, he's going to hit. Volpe's actually considered a better hitter than Peraza, so I would expect him to hit pretty well. If these guys, both of them hit like 260, 270, guess what? IKF hit 260 with a bunch of singles last year, and Josh Donaldson barely hit 230, so you can't really get much worse than what you were getting, and the Yankees still won 99 games. So if you already have Rizzo back, if you get 99 back, and you bring back a guy like Benintendi, you get him for a full year. You can't forget Bader's still there. The offense will be fine, and you can let these guys grow as the season goes along. Or you just say, we're going to ride with one of them, trade the other, and sign the big guy like Correa, and then guess what? You can just let him grow. You can let Volpe or Peraza grow at the bottom of the order, just like they let Aaron Judge do in 2017. He sucked when 2016. Judge was terrible. They started him in like the 8th spot in 2017. He started hitting left and right. Next thing you know, he's batting second. So they can allow this to happen but it's either one or the other. You're not going to sign a shortstop and keep these guys because there's nowhere for them to play. So you got to make a decision. Do you want both of them in the middle infield? I'm fine with that because I've been asking for it for a while, but I'd be perfectly fine if they sign Correa because I think he'd be a perfect fit with us.
Yeah. Donald?
Peraza gave you the 3 best plays you've seen from a shortstop all year last year. He didn't just play fine shortstop, he played fantastic shortstop. Like, he made incredible plays in the playoffs. He made 2 insane plays in that one playoff game that he started and in the CS, and then he was immediately removed from that position by Aaron Boone and the front office. The guy also bat over 850 in the OPS and 300 batting average. He gave you everything offensively you'd want and defensively that you would want at the shortstop position. But just to pick up on a couple of points here from Brad, Houston sat on their shortstop through his struggles early, and he showed what he could do later. Yeah, and the Yankees refused to play Peraza at all. And from what I understand, Peraza is a better rated prospect than the prospect that Houston developed and ended up being the MVP of the World Series. A lot of it comes down to major league level development, and the Yankees really struggle with that. We do so well with cultivating the talent through the minor league system, but then once they get to the major league level, it becomes a big issue because we don't have baseball guys up at the top. And that's a huge issue for me because in the past, we had excellent coaches, Tony Pena, for instance. We had excellent coaches who could develop guys at the big league level. And we just don't have that anymore because it's been all removed for analytics and front office computer nerds and shit like that. And that really affects our development at the top level. So maybe that's the reason why we have real difficulties in developing guys. But I would definitely have Peraza play shortstop at the start.
The problem with developing the guys is not that they don't know how to play the game. The Yankees don't have the trust in them to work out their the kinks on the major league roster. How many times have we seen them screw everything up? Where they'll bring these guys up, they're on a hot streak, they'll call them up. Next thing you know, they're sitting on the bench for a week and a half, and then they're not barely even getting an at bat or any time in defense. We saw that with L'Oreal for how many years now? They screw themselves up for office wise. It's not the players not having the ability or not developing. We see the numbers in the minor leagues. They play very well. They're not given the chance to translate that to the major leagues. That's the Yankees' problem.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we've been saying for months now. So I don't know what else to say on that. Donald, do you want to finish your point?
Let's get some more really good stuff in the chat here. Chris the Flash, but I'm not giving Torres and Peraza for Pablo Lopez. No, I agree with that. I think that's too much. I'm not giving them Peraza and Torres. No way. Pablo Lopez I like as a middle rotation starter. I would even consider Torres for that straight up, but I wouldn't add Peraza to that. No way. Cashman likes to over-marinate our prospects instead of playing them at MLB level. Well, that's right. That's what I'm saying. He likes to have them just sit in AAA and make excuses for guys like IKF, who didn't really have a role long-term in the organization, which makes no sense. But let's not make this a negative podcast because at the end of the day, it's a very positive day. We've heard good things from Hal Steinbrenner. We've heard good things regarding our chances of re-signing Aaron Judge. And we've got Anthony Rizzo back. It was so important to have Anthony Rizzo back. I mean, the guy carried the team at times. He was so important in the locker room. He even managed a game at the end of the year, and he managed that game better than Aaron Boone did all year long. Anthony Rizzo's a really good guy, man. He's so important. So I'm really glad that Rizz, nobody beats the Rizz, is back. I think it's a really exciting day for the Yankees, and I feel a little more positive about the offseason ahead. Yeah, no, it's definitely the Rizzo returning is I think the best step in the right direction to get things moving. But that is going to wrap things up for us. We will end on that note, but nobody beats the Rizz. And I will be here Sunday at 11 o'clock with the Upper Deck, helping that co-hosting with that show. So tune in Sunday for me and Mother Superior on the Upper Deck podcast. It's going to wrap things up for us today. Just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Brad, FJE, Chris, Spencer. We appreciate you all. Hope you all have a great weekend. Play your pitch out your pride and play hard.